Good morning. My name is Tariq Mitri. I'm in charge of Sam Faris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs, and I would like to welcome you on behalf of all of us at AUB, our institute, who's hosting you, but also CAMES, the Center for Arab and Middle Eastern Studies. AUB is an institution known to some of you, but for those who don't know AUB, it started as a Syrian Protestant college founded by Presbyterian missionaries from the East Coast of the United States of America, from New England. But it got secularized on the way and has become staunchly secular, changed its name from Syrian Protestant College to the American University of Beirut, and had become even more secular in the 60s and 70s. I recall when I was a student here, the chapel we had changed its name into Assembly Hall. The Department of Religious Studies was abolished, and we lost our chaplain. That was an even clearer indication that AUB is more secular. And the more secular AUB has become, the less secular Lebanon has been in the last 40 or so years. And sometimes you have an impression when you get to AUB intramuros that you're flying to another country. And some of the people working at AUB choose to cut themselves off the environment in which we live for a variety of reasons and enjoy being in their comfort zone, a little more secular, as I said, more secular than the country, less polluted than the rest of the city, and some of them realize also that they live in a bubble. Now, the institute I run has a specific task, that is to be a reminder to those who enjoy being in a bubble that they need to open up, that academics need to be engaged in public life, that although it's not fashionable to be a public intellectual anymore, at least the French way, but our role is encourage and help academic seek some visibility and audibility in public life, both in Lebanon and in the region. That is the major mission of the Sam Faris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs. We do research work, but the specificity of our research is that it ends always with policy recommendations. And it's meant to speak to policymakers, but not only to policymakers, but also to opinion makers. And this is not an easy exercise. People are not used, especially academics. They write for journals. Difficult to get them right to a wider public, to those who make decisions on our behalf or who influence the opinion. We have a variety of programs: climate change and water, refugee, social justice in the city, education and youth, Arab and International Affairs. I must have missed something, yeah. The role of civil society in shaping or influencing policies. These are some of the projects that we are involved in, but our main mission is to provide a forum for what you may call policy dialogue. Dialogue on those issues involving three parties, so to speak. Those who produce knowledge, those who make policy decisions, and those who influence opinions. And that's not very easy, a very easy task to, because those three communities of people tend to turn their backs to each other, ignore each other, and at times look down at each other. Look down at each other. And so there is a great deal of effort we need to mobilize in order to help all parties speak a language that they can understand, mutually understand, and engage them in issues of public life. Joshua had asked me to introduce our institute, but say a few words about Lebanon, which I will. I won't take much of your time. It's rather unfortunate that we were not able, for whatever reason, I'm not fully aware of the specific reasons, to put together a good panel on Lebanon. Perhaps what I'm going to say now might shed some light on the difficulty on the increasing difficulty of speaking about Lebanon to an audience like yours. It takes a lifetime to speak about Lebanon. There is a joke, a true story actually, of a French diplomat who had written to the Quai d'Orsay in Paris about this country, and then said that to me this is the problem of Lebanon, and this is what France should do to help solve this main problem. And then the reply from Quai d'Orsay came, says, you seem to claim to understand Lebanon, and if you do, then someone might have explained it to you in a distorted and simplified manner so that you can pretend to understand. One of the recent controversies, actually the most recent controversies we've had in this country, was about civil marriage. It's about a few days ago. Our Minister of Interior, in an interview, press interview, had said that this is an issue that is worthy of discussion. She didn't say more than this. I think she's aware that there is a social demand in Lebanon for optional civil marriage, but she's also aware that there is opposition to optional civil marriage as well. So she chose to say some discussion is needed. But then many people were up in arms in reaction to what she said. The most striking reaction came from Dar al-Fatwa, the Muslim Sunni highest religious institution in the country, whereby they reaffirmed their flat rejection of civil marriage, and because it is incompatible with the implementation of Sharia. Now, Lebanon is not, there is a bit of a misunderstanding around this in the country, but I think everybody wants to calm down this controversy, so there won't be a debate on this, I believe. But issues of civil, whether we live in a civil state, as some like to call it, or we aspire to a civil state, I think is an inevitable subject that will be discussed in public life. Lebanon's political system is in a way secular. There is a separation between church institution and the state. The constitution is secular. Our laws are positive laws. Our parliament legislates on behalf of the people of Lebanon. So the people are sovereign. Our judiciary work implement the Lebanese law in the name of the people of Lebanon. So in some ways, the state is secular. The society is not, but, and there is a domain and domaine réservé, the French speakers would say, for the implementation of Sharia on the one hand and church canons on the other, that is the realm of family law. So family law is the prerogative of religious communities. Religious tribunals are the ones that deal with divorce, inheritance, and all the rest. So Lebanon is a secular state with the exception of family law, which is under the jurisdiction of religious institutions. That is a sort of hybrid system, but it's not the only hybrid system in the region, as you know. I said that there will probably be a debate on the notion of what it means to be a civil state. The term has been used time and again in recent history, الدولة المدنية, and it was believed that it was a euphemism, that it meant secular state. But those who did not want to use the unsalvageable word of Almaniya used Madaniya. So instead of using secular, they use civil. But now, one would be tempted to think that not all those who advocate a civil state are willing to consider accepting an optional civil marriage. So that puts the notion of civil state, as it were, to test. And for those who are opposed to optional civil marriage, they will have to find another word than civil in characterizing the kind of state they aspire to. Now, I said the society is not secular. I should correct myself a little. Like anywhere else, there is a great deal of secularization in our society. Like any other society, there are lots of agnostics and atheists and people who favor the autonomy of society vis-a-vis religious institutions and symbols and what have you, though they are discreet in affirming their secularity. There are many people who think that religion is a private matter altogether, so privatization of religion is a reality among many Lebanese. But our political system, notwithstanding the fact that the constitution is secular, our political system is communal. Now, I know English speakers use the word sectarian. I think it's a misnomer. I don't use this word. I'd rather borrow communal from the Indian experience and think it's more proper than the word sectarian. Word sectarian implies that all religious groups are nothing but sects, and they operate the way sects operate. That's not the case at all. In this country, we're a country of different religious communities, where the sense of belonging to a community is strong than even religious faith that is foundational of this very community. So you have a situation whereby people fight in the name of a religion in which they cease to believe, or they hardly believe in. But they believe in the community to which they belong. You know, that reminds me of Karamazov brothers of Dostoevsky, where one asked the question, do you believe in God? And the reply said, I believe in Holy Russia. So many Lebanese believe in their community, whether they believe in God and in the religious tradition of their community or not is open to discussion. So society is partly secularized, but is highly communalized. And the political system, based on power sharing between the representative of communities, we have a quota system in government and parliament, in administration, in the judiciary, and even in the army. Even in the army, you know, we have a quota, so many Shiite Muslim generals, so many Maronite Christian generals, and this balance, we try not to break it, not to put civil peace at risk. So this is the system that we have in this country, and so you have two processes in society. Might be more secularized, but the political system is highly communalized. And there are no realistic hopes that this is going to change any soon. One word, and I conclude. One word about, in this institute, we normally don't work on issues of religion. But a few weeks ago, we organized a conference on religion in society. Sari Hanafi was the mastermind of this conference. Previously, we had a conference on civil society and civil state. But most importantly, we had, in collaboration with La Maison des Sciences de l'Homme in Paris, we had a major study program with an international conference on exiting violence. You know that an industry, so to speak, has developed since the rise of Daesh, ISIS, an industry of a proliferation of initiatives on de-radicalization, study of radicalism and what have you. So it was, in a way, inevitable that we join efforts with others in trying to understand the phenomenon of extreme and violent radicalism in this part of the world. And for 2 years, we debated those issues, and I think I'm being very schematic and quick. There were those who attributed radicalism to reading of the religious tenets they were digging into the literature of a certain number of fuqaha to show that the extremist and violent radical movements are inspired and moved by religious convictions. A major case in point is the work of Gilles Kepel, the French political scientist, who has worked on Abu Mus'ab al-Suri, trying to show that everything Daesh does comes directly from the writings of Abu Mus'ab al-Suri. That was one trend. There was another which was more interested in analyzing the psychology of people who join Daesh. They come from families where the father is absent. No, I'm just being very quick, and so on. And then there was a third group of people that probably includes us, Sari and I and the rest of us, who gave more emphasis to the social and political context in which those radical extremists emerged. And it's only later that they legitimate what their political grievances using the resources of Islam. They're not necessarily inspired by the writing of Ibn Taymiyyah or more recently Abu Mus'ab al-Suri and people like him. But it's the moment they are radicalized, they go to these people. Olivier Roy in France, in responding to Gilles Kepel, said it's not Islamization of radicality that we see, it's not radicalization of Islam that we see, it's Islamization of radicality. And I think this little sentence seems to speak eloquently to the complexities of this phenomenon. Now, we did studies to sort of verify this hypothesis. We worked on the tribes in eastern Syria and tried to see how a tribal society, like most tribal societies are not very religious, how a tribal society was very receptive to Daesh. They were not attracted by the religious discourse of Daesh, but they had the local identity politics of tribes was determinant in their attitudes towards Daesh. We worked, we had also a field study in the city of Tripoli in northern Lebanon, where it was easy to identify three different groups of militants. Those Sunni Muslims whose militancy is primarily driven by their grievances as Lebanese, who feel marginalized by the political system, whose community is perceived to be threatened by the mounting influence of Hezbollah. Then you have a second group of people that are the Salafis, who are, unlike what it is often said in the Western media, are not potential jihadists. Most of them, at least the Salafis we've studied, and the many Salafis we know, are quietist. And they have no particular sympathy towards the radical movements such as Daesh. And then you have those who are more receptive to Daesh. So we tried to introduce this typology of militant movements in the name of Sunni Islam in northern Lebanon to show that I think the socio-political motivations and dynamics at play help us understand far more the phenomenon of radicalism than the analysis of texts of fuqaha, both classical or modern. I think I should stop at this. I've spoken a lot. I can go on. Thank you very much for being here. Ahlan wa sahlan.